Hi, my name is Daniel Abrahamberg and welcome to my course, Modern Architecture. Today we are reviewing some really useful basic tools that all kind of programmers that develop on a Windows machine should familiarize themselves with. As I mentioned in a course introduction, we are striving for simple, fast, and practical. I believe when you're up and running with the practical parts, you can figure out the details by yourselves. Okay, make sure your cup of coffee is filled, sit back and relax. Let's quickly review what we are going to talk about today. I am going to show you Git BASH, Visual Studio, and Docker Desktop, and when we use them all together. To continue with Git BASH, we need Visual Studio code to be installed. Let's go ahead and do that first. By the way, through this chapter, sometimes I refer it as Visual Studio. I hope you don't get confused about that. Visual Studio code has not that much to do with the Visual Studio. It is merely a really awesome text editor. You can go ahead and download it from this address. While you're installing it, make sure that you check Add Open with Code action to Windows Explorer Directory context menu. This enables you to access Visual Studio Code from your right-click menu. When you open it, you see something like this. Okay, let's review and install Git BASH. BASH is a command shell, like Windows Command Prompt or CMD, but it gives you a Linux-like experience. It also comes with some utilities that normally you can find them on Linux. I'm going to show you in a moment. Git BASH comes with Git for Windows, and you can access it when you install Git on your Windows machine. So let's do that. So what you do is that you come to this address and you install the Windows version. Of course, if you are on a Windows machine. If you are on a Mac or Linux, your machine command line is already Linux-like. Before you go ahead and install, I just want to mention that while you're installing, make sure that the option Git BASH here is checked under Windows Explorer integration so you can access Git BASH from your right-click menu. It's pre-checked by default, so make sure you don't uncheck it accidentally. And also the installer is going to ask you for the Git default editor. Make sure that you choose Visual Studio Code. It gives you some extra features. And also Vim, the default Git editor, is too much Linux for Windows users. I am going to show you quickly Vim too. Go ahead and click next until you finish your installation. I made a folder on my desktop called Hello. Well, it's the first name came to my mind. We have two text files, as you can see. I am right-clicking and choosing Git BASH here from the menu. Notice that there is a similar option for Git UI. I encourage you to try it yourself later. Just make sure that you select correctly and you see the Git BASH. Let me adjust the size so you can see better. I should tell you right now, this is my absolute favorite command line. You get the best of two worlds. You can do most of the command prompt and PowerShell things as well as the bash commands and Linux things. I'm showing you in a second. The yellow on the top is the current address. Git BASH is fully integrated with Windows. So if I drag and drop a file into it, I get the address of the file here. Notice the address? It is Linux-like. Linux does not have the concept of drives as Windows has. Instead, you can mount disk into folders. We are covering Linux on the next chapter. I just wanted to emphasize that the path in Git BASH is Linux-like. Let me show you something else. I go ahead and make a folder inside my Hello folder. I call it Git, and I take my Git folder under source control. Don't worry if you don't understand the command yet, you are not expected to. It is important that you understand the folder Git is under source control now. I have seen people, when they start with Git, they have some kind of problem with distinguishing which folder is actually under the source control. You see the blue text next to the yellow current address? It says master. It is referring to the current branch, and it's actually a very nice way to find which folder is under the source control. I go back one folder again and you see the text disappears as the hello folder is not under the source control. Okay, let's see what utilities we have in Git BASH. Most of the Linux commands work on Git BASH. Let's try the cat command with a test file. You see content of the file in a notepad. If I write cat followed by the name of the file, you see the same content. Nano is a popular Linux text editor. Git BASH also comes with Nano. Let's try it. See, it works fine. I close it with Ctrl+X as it says at the bottom. You remember I told you I'm going to show you Vim? Now it's time. Let's try it. I've seen people stuck in Vim. Guilty as charged, myself too. So it's a little bit odd at the beginning, but as you used to it, it's actually a very good editor. If you ever stuck in Vim, press skip followed by :Q A exclamation mark. You see it at the bottom. It's worth mentioning that Git BASH also comes with SSH and OpenSSL that we are going to use actually on the coming chapters. Let's head back to Visual Studio Code and continue our journey from where we left off. Remember our famous hello folder? Let's right click on it and choose open with code from the right click menu. You see our file is already there. I made an empty file under the Git folder that was under the source control, if you remember. There is a source control icon here. I'm going to click on it. And you see my file here. We are going to get through all the Git concept in the Git chapter, so don't worry about that. I'm only trying to show you here. The next icon is run, and it's useful if you are debugging things more or less. And the last one here is the extension icon, and that's why Visual Studio Code is so powerful. This editor is really popular between people who are programming Python, C, C++, and it is one of the best editors if you are writing JavaScript and TypeScripts. You just need to install the extension that is relevant to you. Other than that, one of the extensions that I really enjoy is GitLens. It makes your source control section so much more powerful. If you are looking for a specific extension, you can search up here. Let's do it for Docker. I am going to go ahead and install Docker on my Visual Studio. You see I get a Docker icon in here. We are going to come back to it later. Let's go back to the files. I'm going to show you something else. If you press Ctrl+P, you get a search field that you can search any file that is in the current folder. It's really useful when you are working with projects with a lot of files. Okay, let's open a terminal. To do that, you press Ctrl, Shift, and accent at the same time. The accent is the key above tab and adjacent to the one on your keyboard. You can have multiple command lines. You just click on the plus. And you can switch between them using the drop-down menu. You can close the current terminal by clicking on the trash bin. By default, you see PowerShell, but I told you PowerShell is not my favorite terminal. I guess we already know which one is mine. Let's go ahead and change it to Git BASH. If you press Ctrl, Shift and P, you get a field that starts with greater than. You can do Ctrl P and then you can type greater. You get the same result. Now you're ready to write some commands. I start to write open setting. I don't need to write the whole thing though. Just make sure you open the one with the JSON. Here is your personal setting on the Visual Studio. I happen to enlarge fonts to 30 so you can see better. I put a comma there and paste some JSON setting. Don't worry about it, you find it in the description of the video. So if I save with Ctrl S and open a new terminal with Ctrl Shift and accent, you see that it is changed to Git BASH. I can pop new terminals, clicking on the plus, and the reason that I still can see some PowerShells is that they were already there before I changed the terminal. So if I close them, I'm not going to see PowerShell here again. If you absolutely love PowerShell and you want to go back, just remove the setting. So you may ask, what's the deal here? Should I learn all the settings by heart? No, you just go to File, Preferences and Settings. And there you can generate settings. You see here, for example, my font is set to 30. Let's change the color theme. Oh God, my eyes. Okay, let's remove it, but we are removing it from the setting. So I go back to setting and delete it and save it with Ctrl S. And suddenly it just become normal. Much better. I am kind of dyslexic. Let's see if Visual Studio has a cure for that. Let's go back to extensions and search for code spell checker. It's a kind of powerful spell checker because it understands also Pascal case and camel case and kebab case. So you can make sure that it finds if you misspell. It is so embarrassing to get comments on your perfect code only because you're misspells. I try my best to type random wrong and see what we get as alternatives. See, now it's fixed. Another extension is debug for Chrome, and that is a really awesome extension if you are doing JavaScript or TypeScript. By the way, this popular extension has really great descriptions that I suggest that you really take a look into it if you want to use them. Visual Studio understands the type of the file and handles the content based on the type of the file. Let's change the type of the file to JSON and see what happens. You see we faced an error, and basically what it says is that JSON should start with the brackets. Let's try C# them. As soon as we change the file type to C#, Visual Studio warns us that I don't know this type of file. There is an extension you can download, so it can help you. Let's go ahead and download it. So for this extension to work properly, we need to have .NET Core to be installed on our machine. You see, it helps you to find the .NET Core and download it. Another thing that Visual Studio is awesome at is Markdown files. You see, Markdown files are really easy to write, but you need to be able to imagine how it's going to look after it's done. So Visual Studio gives you a tool to preview your work on the fly. A good detail on Visual Studio is when a file is not saved, you get like a white dot on the tab. So you keep track of your unsaved files. You can also track your open tabs on the left side of the Visual Studio. I tend to open a lot of tabs at the same time, and it's really handy. Visual Studio code is packed with functions. At the left bottom side, you can log in and then you can synchronize your Visual Studio settings across all your Visual Studios in different computers you might have. There is also a setting icon, so you can use it, for example, to go to the command palette if you don't remember how to do that using your keyboard. There are also some source control stuff there that we are going to take a look later. And based on your settings and the type of document you are looking at, you get different options down there too. We are going to visit Visual Studio one more time in this chapter, but for now, let's go to the Docker. Last but not least, Docker Desktop. You can actually navigate to this page and click on the button Get Started. From the options, choose Docker Desktop for Windows, or if you are on a Mac, and download it. The installation process is pretty much straightforward, so I'm not going to show you anything. When you are done, open it and you see something like this. First of all, you have to create an account on the Docker website and you have to log in with your client. When you're all set, it invites you to try Docker. It gives you a line that you can paste it to any terminal and run a container. Let's do that together. I copy it here and open my favorite terminal and paste it there and press enter. You see that text? It means that it worked. Let's go back to Docker Desktop app and take a look at that. You see the name? Inspiring Galileo. Docker tend to give you some kind of random name so you can identify your running container. I think they are kind of cute. Let's open it by clicking on it and take a look what is inside. You see logs, inspect, that gives you some information, and stats. Let me adjust my screen so you can see the stats. You see there is information about CPU, RAM, network and disk that this container is using. That's good, we know what they are. Okay, let's go and take a look at CLI. CLI is command line interface, and what we expect to get there, a command line. So what is this really? This getting started container image is a really lightweight Linux. You see, I already say container image, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. We are going to discuss these things on the Docker chapter. For now, we run Linux in the Docker, and this CLI helps us to access it. So let's access it. I am just going to list all the files and folders in the root directory. And let's go to one of them. Let's go to etc. And let's list all the contents of etc2. Try to remember some of these folders for future reference, like APK, CA certificate, and so on. Okay, let's close the CLI and see what else we can do. We can stop and start the container. We can also delete the container from here. And we are back to having no container running again. Okay, let's do that once more. We copy it from here and paste it to our favorite terminal. Okay, we are up and running again with our container running on the Docker. You remember the Docker extension that we installed on Visual Studio Code? Now it's time to take a look at it. Let's open it, and I cover it because I have some stuff that I am working with and I don't think it's wise to show it in public. Other than that, let's go to our Docker extension and see what we get there. We have this getting started image that is running on a container with a different name. As you see, this extension gives us a lot of tools that we can work with. For example, the Docker images. Let's close it so I don't have to cover it. And you can also connect to your container registry on Azure and Docker Hub. You can also see network and volumes and some other stuff, but we are going to take a look at it at the Docker chapter. So let's just take a look at the files inside the container using Visual Studio Code this time. If I find etc folder again and open it, you can see the same directories here: APK, CA certificates, and the other directories. Let's do a quick tour in the setting of Docker Desktop. Optionally, you can run your Docker engine in two ways: as a Linux virtual machine under Hyper-V, or as a Windows subsystem for Linux. I think nowadays you get the later option as default, but my experience, sometimes it doesn't work as good as the Hyper-V version when it comes to run Linux containers. They are going probably to fix it soon, so just give it a try, see if it works for you. You can enable Kubernetes in case you want to try that, but for now I keep it deactivated. You can also use a JSON format for your Docker setting. We leave it as is. And let's take a look at resources. Based on if you are running under the Hyper-V or Linux subsystems, you get slightly a different setting. For example, here you can assign more memory to your Hyper-V virtual machine, or you can change the number of the cores that your virtual machine is allowed to use. This is especially beneficial when you are running several containers at the same time and you need a little bit more resources. I encourage you to explore the setting when WSL2 is checked. Congratulations, you did it! Now you have a solid basis with the tools that we are going to use on the upcoming chapters. Feels good, right? Keep in mind that if you didn't recognize some of the commands that we use, it's okay, you are not expected to do so. I am going to teach you all of them later. For me, it's important that you've been here and you enjoy the course. But if you feel generous enough, please subscribe and like the video so it goes up to the list and more people find it so they can also benefit it. Thank you very much. See you at the next chapter. That would be Linux.